It's been a hell of a week in America, hasn't it? I mean, we were supposed to have a rapture on Tuesday. We have a lying ass FBI that is telling us that, oh, yes, the ICE detention shooter was, I don't know, far left. Hate was anti-ICE, which is a phrase no one ever uses. And now they're just using big pens to scribble on bullets because they think that we're all fucking idiots. On top of which, the escalator incident with Donald Trump, the fact that he can't read, his embarrassment at the UN, which prompted so many headlines around the world to basically say, America, is this your king? I'm outdone. Folks, I'll tell you that by the time we reach Thursday on the Danielle Moody Show, which is our end of the week here, I'm outdone. And now I know why I created the 4-day week here, because I basically was army crawling to get to this moment. So buckle up, grab a drink, grab a smoke, sit in a meditative pose, because we going to run through what happened today. Because welcome to the Danielle Moody Show. Let's go. Damnation, we made it. And by made it, I mean to Thursday, because that's how we count success these days. It's like, have you made it to the next day? Because this week brought us a fake rapture. Donald Trump's Kenkels can't make it up, an escalator that breaks down because of his own people's incompetence. Teleprompter breaks down because technology hates him like the rest of us. Folks, Jimmy Kimmel's return to air Donald Trump's continued threats. And now those threats are resulting in indictments pending, right? All to assuage the man baby's feelings. Because guess what? No one likes you. No one. And I wish that you would just go the fuck away. But alas, here we are. So we begin today on this merry-go-round of motherfucking ish. We hear. So federal prosecutors are preparing to seek Comey indictment despite concerns of, guess what? Insufficient evidence. Prosecutors shared a memo with the new interim U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia, who, by the way, is an attorney and was a defense attorney for Trump, but is not actually a prosecutor. But who cares? She looks like she stepped out of the Mar-a-Lago, conveyor belt makeover. So she fits the bill, None of these people need to have resumes. They basically, everyone that is in Trump world, you have to assume their resume came out of a Cracker Jack box and they just look, you know what I'm saying? They all have the veneer that Donald Trump wants. They all look like they're from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. They all, look like former, defected mob folks. But they have nothing going on inside, which just, fits the bill. And so here we are. And this is according to the Washington Post. The Justice Department is preparing to seek an indictment against former FBI Director James Comey as early as Thursday for allegedly giving false testimony to Congress about his role investigating efforts to influence the 2016 presidential election. Here's my thing. Bitch, you won. Do you understand how fucking whiny you have to be to continue to go after this man on the grievance that you're still holding from 2016 when you won the election? Like, do you understand how unhappy and miserable of a person Donald Trump is and everyone in his goddamn orbit it's a feeding frenzy of grievance and whining and white tears. And just, I'm so like, if I could scream, there's a group apparently in Chicago that gathers at 7 p.m. and they just gather on this pier and they just scream. Like, I feel like I should start organizing things like that on a regular basis. Just meet me somewhere in Brooklyn in a park and we'll just scream for like 10 minutes and then go about our days. Because that's what it feels like to live inside this hellscape. Donald Trump in recent days demanded prosecutors use the criminal justice system to punish his political opponents. Career prosecutors presented the president as new pick for U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia with a memo laying out concerns. And I hope that they did that memo in like crayon, because that's the only way that A, Donald Trump is going to read it, and B, his new Barbie doll lawyer is going to understand it. That there was insufficient evidence to charge Comey. I just want to remind folks, there was like a 2-month investigation into James Comey, which came up with nada, nothing, bupkis. It is why now the former U.S. attorney that was appointed by Donald Trump was fired, because he refused to bring up bogus bullshit charges. But you see, at the end of the day, when you have bought off the Supreme Court, when you have MAGAfied the Supreme Court, and you're just hoping everything kicks its way up there to people who will bow down to you, right, and give you whatever it is that you want. Like Donald Trump says jump, you say how high. He says prosecute this ham sandwich, you say okay, right? The fact is that in order to bring an indictment, you still have to have, right, a grand jury of your peers that then have to go through said evidence and decide whether or not there is enough to indict. Now, again, I don't think that we're getting there. This is just a smear campaign that Donald Trump has been trying to bring against people who rightfully, well, James Comey aside, because I could give a fuck about James Comey. To be honest, I don't want James Comey indicted for no absolute reason, but let me express here that James Comey is the reason why Hillary Clinton did not win. James Comey decided in October of 2016 to reopen the FBI files on her email servers that showed, once again, absolutely fucking nothing. But it was just the perception a month before the election that Hillary Clinton was up to no good. James Comey did that. And I, for one, as well as every American who cared about this country and the preservation of our democracy, should look no further in casting blame than to James Comey. Okay? That being said, I still don't believe that indictments should just be given out because Donald Trump woke up on the wrong side of the bed and hates everybody who doesn't kiss his tiny, tiny little feet. So that's where we are there. Take a listen.
We're being told this by 3 sources that an indictment of Comey is expected in the coming days. They're also saying that this same office is expected to charge Tish James, the New York Attorney General, with mortgage fraud. And of course, Donald Trump, we all saw it posted on Truth Social in recent days, exhorting his Attorney General to charge both of those people as soon as possible. But again, this is, grand juries are secret. This is a fluid situation. It's also important to know, though, that the U.S. attorney, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney in this office, Eric Siebert, was essentially forced out last week, in part because he was refusing to bring these cases. We're told that he was opposed to prosecuting both James and Comey on these grounds, and he's out now. And the new U.S. attorney is a former Donald Trump defense lawyer who's never prosecuted a case.
But, who needs a resume of ever having actually had any of the credentials to do the job that now you have, right? Because you're white and you look like a Barbie doll. So of course, this job is now up to you and you're just willing to do whatever Donald Trump says. To the point that was made on MSNBC, the fact is that grand juries are secret. Now, we know that Donald Trump is not above mob tactics. We're watching it play out on his broke down social media platform on a regular basis. But the fact is that unless he is, once again, just going to break the law, figure out who's on this secret grand jury and threaten all of them to throw the case his way, it is unlikely, right? It is unlikely that we are going to see these indictments play out. But what Donald Trump really wants is that he really wants to ruin the brand and character of these people in the press. But what he is actually doing is just alerting us to how petty, how small, and how vindictive he actually is.
Carr, tried to backtrack when he said, "Oh, I didn't really mean to sound like the mafioso," as Ted Cruz put it, and did the little accent. And as always, Donald Trump comes riding in and makes it clear as day that this was government pressure, posting on Truth Social before Jimmy Kimmel came out. So I can't believe he has his job back. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. In the process, Trump has basically made Kimmel unfireable. At this point, Disney, even if his ratings go down to 3 people watching it, will not be able to do it because now he has become the lightning rod, the symbol, the avatar for this fight about the First Amendment and government overreach. And I think it's important as well that we just saw before we came out here that it looks like Jim Comey is going to be indicted in a few days. Donald Trump on Truth Social. Let's get rid of Eric Siebert because he doesn't want to bring charges. We'll get someone in there who will. And lo and behold, we're checking off our enemies list. It's all part of the same puzzle.
All part of the same puzzle. This is one of the campaign promises that Donald Trump is actually keeping. You see, he promised a campaign of retribution. He promised to go after his enemies. Now, that has nothing to do with his base. Going after his enemies is not putting more food on their table. It's not lowering their utilities. It's not providing medicine for them. It's not doing anything for the average American person. But that's what Donald Trump does. It is me, me, me. Right? And it doesn't matter if the law is on his side or not. He's going to use and weaponize every agency in order to throttle his enemies for having the audacity to bring credible cases against him. And just let me remind you, the reason why we are even here in this place with Donald Trump as president again is because Merrick Garland didn't do his fucking job and indict that motherfucker as soon as he stepped on the helicopter to take him away after, right, in 2020. So we had an opportunity. I just want to remind everybody, we had an opportunity. Merrick Garland, right, when Joe Biden became president, Merrick Garland didn't have to start from scratch. All he had to do was pick up where the Mueller report left off and look at all of the impeachment documents and indict Donald Trump as soon as Donald Trump flew off of the South Lawn in January of 2021. Merrick Garland, folks, would wait a year and a half before he appointed Jack Smith as a special counsel to investigate. We lost a year and a half of time. Imagine where we would have been. Donald Trump would not have been able to announce that he was running for re-election because he would have been indicted immediately. And all of the trials that he was playing, back and forth with appeals, with this, that, and the other thing, we would have had a longer runway had Merrick Garland and Joe Biden done their jobs from day one, which was to shut down Donald Trump, the national threat to our security, to our democracy, and to the global society that we all live in. That is what should have been done. So I just, again, when you want to just look at the one side, you have to understand that it takes 2 people to tango. It takes multiple people to fuck this country up. And while Joe Biden said that he was here to save the soul of the nation, well, you actually, in order to do that, would have had needed to get rid of the devil, not pray for his redemption. Speaking of the devil, so bobblehead Barbie, just look at her face. Ugh. Anyway, it's like the hate just seeps out of her. Do you know what I'm saying? Like she just must smell like misery and grief. So press conference, she's asked, right? You know, White House presser. She's asked a very real question about why is it that Donald Trump is proceeding with these indictments when clearly his prior U.S. attorney didn't feel like there was sufficient enough evidence in order to bring charges. Listen to her response.
The president accepts the conclusions of his Justice Department to not bring charges against Letitia James. In fact, you had Bondi and Blanche top DOJ leadership who were against ousting Eric Siebert, who again was picked by President Trump.
I just answered that question for you, and the president has every right to express how he feels about these people who literally campaigned on trying to put him in jail, who literally tried to ruin his life and ruin his businesses, and he wants to see accountability for those who abuse their office and abuse their power. And Letitia James absolutely did that, whether you want to admit it or not.
Is that not
Jeff,
retribution, though?
Jeff, it's accountability.
I don't know if she needs a thesaurus, but that is an accountability because they didn't actually do anything wrong. They didn't weaponize their positions. Donald Trump is a crook and a criminal. And because of his wealth, his fame, and his whiteness and his maleness, he's been able to skirt the law for damn near 70-something years. Right? These cases were credible cases that were brought against him. Tish James won the case against him against Donald Trump's mortgage fraud, not his mortgage fraud, but against his lies about his real estate dealings, about the size of his properties that would then inflate their worth, right? And allow him to make more money off of different businesses than they were worth. She won that case. And Donald Trump was supposed to pay out nearly $500 million. But, bunch of judges got together just a couple of fucking months ago and said, well, it's not like he killed anybody. And I'm like, that you know of. So they erased, right, the money that he was supposed to give back, the $500 million. This is what Donald Trump does. This is what happens for him. This is why they have called him Teflon Don since the beginning of time, because nothing ever sticks. But it's not to say that he wasn't convicted, because he was. I can't stand that woman. Nonetheless, things also get worse today. The Justice Department, the weaponized Justice Department, official pushes prosecutors to investigate George Soros Foundation, which is open society. The directive suggests department leaders are following orders, once again, from the president. They're not following orders from investigations that they have done. Donald Trump has a list of people scribbled out with his little tiny hands of who I hate today. Right? George Soros has always been at the top of that list because he's a billionaire that funds a lot of progressive organizations, individuals, and groups. Right? They've always come after, George Soros's name, but you probably don't actually know what he does. Right? And so now the Justice Department is opening up an investigation based on what? Probably absolutely nothing, but we live in the upside down, and that doesn't actually matter. A senior Justice Department official has instructed more than six U.S. attorneys' offices to draft plans to investigate a group funded by George Soros, the billionaire Democratic donor who Trump has demanded be thrown in jail. So if Trump says it, then it must happen, right? This is not what happens inside of a democracy. This is a mob fucking government, right? This is how the mob runs. This is how dictators run shit. So the official's directive, a copy of which was viewed by the New York Times, goes as far. Listen to the shit that they're just pulling out of thin air. Goes as far to list possible charges prosecutors could file. And again, this is just, what do you think that we could charge these people with? You have no evidence. You haven't done no investigation, but let's just come up with a list of things that will work. And then we'll bring it to our little leader and we'll see if it'll make him happy today. These are the charges. Y'all, I swear to God, possible prosecutors could file charges ranging from arson to material support of terrorism. So here is where this gets actually serious, which is that what they are going to do, the next wave, right, to quell dissent, to quell opposition, is to then label every philanthropic group, every nonprofit organization that is Democratic leaning and progressive leaning as a terrorist organization. Once they are labeled as a terrorist organization, then you can investigate them and treat them any type of way without any type of due process. That is the goal here. The goal is just to have a list of philanthropic groups, right, of individuals and donors who have supported Democratic causes, say that they're all supporting terrorism, tear their offices apart, make sure that they stop funding smaller groups, and then essentially taking away all possibility that there is any resistance or pushback. That is the plan. And so they are starting with literally the biggest Democratic donor and his philanthropic organization. They are starting with George Soros, and then it will funnel out from there. They go on to say here that the memo suggests department leaders are following orders from the president that specific people or groups be subject to criminal investigation, a major break from decades of past practices meant to insulate the Justice Department from political interference. The move is the latest instance of the Justice Department moving against Trump's perceived enemies. Once again, without any just cause whatsoever. Moving on. So, like I say to you all, I watch clips. I don't watch cable news anymore because honestly, I find it to be a waste of time. I'm not in the mood for food fights. I'm not in the mood for people that just want to say things so that they get clicks and they get followers. Like, the times that we are living in are way too consequential for the type of fuckery that passes as news these days. Nonetheless, I thought that this was really an important exchange between Adam Mockler, a commentator on Midas Touch here on YouTube, who went on CNN, and he was talking about Donald Trump's obsession with James Comey and how many times he has mentioned James Comey versus dealing with the actual issues that supposedly the American people brought him in to deal with. And I want you to take a listen to this exchange. Listen to the Republican and what he tries to interrupt and say.
About 2016, I mean, is that the barometer?
Let me give Adam a second.
I agree with Bakari. We should look at the full picture. If you want to talk about Erica Kirk, she said she doesn't hate the other side. Then Donald Trump came on stage right after and said, I do hate my opponents. This is the president of the United States, not some comedian. And by the way, it is so incredibly clear that Trump is pulling every lever possible to make sure that everybody consolidates around him ideologically, whether it's with Jimmy Kimmel being pulled off the air, whether it's with Comey. I mean, I did the research. Donald Trump's priorities are so off that he has mentioned Comey on his Truth Social 2,042 times.
Yeah,
how many times do you think he's mentioned?
How
many times has he mentioned inflation? How many times has he mentioned inflation?
Well, when you fix inflation, you don't have to mention it.
He did not fix it, and he's mentioned it. He's mentioned it half as many times as Comey.
You're just wrong.
He's mentioned inflation half as many times as Comey on his Truth Social.
Because he actually
because
works
his priorities
on it.
lie in petty vengeances. Ben, let me finish. His priorities lie.
We're talking about inflation right now, not about Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm just letting him finish his point. Then we got to.
I'm just trying to say Donald Trump's priorities lie in petty vengeances is going after
Just fixes
Comey,
stuff.
going after Kimmel, and he's
Is
not
the
fixing
economy
this
good or
tariff
bad?
media. Right now, unemployment is up.
Is
right
the
now,
economy good or
We're
bad
gonna
right
leave-
now?
We're going to leave it there.
tariffs are making it worse.
So you have Adam, who clearly comes armed with facts, right? And you know what's hilarious? When I kick myself off of the stream, no one else is here but me. And I kick myself off of the stream by accident by trying to pull a video. Am I back, folks? I should be back here. I apologize. Hold. That was scary. Okay, I am back. I'm sorry about that. I do this sometimes when I'm trying. If you saw how many tabs I have open, you would understand why that happens to me all the time. Let me go back to where I was. Okay. So what is funny here to me with that video is that the Republican that is on there is just like, isn't the economy fixed? Aren't things perfect? Isn't everything amazing? Like, is the economy good or bad right now? Is it good or bad right now? Is it good or bad? And I'm just like, is it good or bad? Like, it's actually fucking terrible. And the delusion that these people sit in it, and this is why I say, like, pay attention to what he was saying, not necessarily what Adam was saying, because Adam is coming there with facts. But the guy Ben Ferguson, who is on there, and it's just like, well, he doesn't have to mention inflation because he's fixed inflation. And I'm like, bitch, have you gone to the grocery store recently? I literally was on a call with one of my friends yesterday evening, catching up. And he lives in LA, and I'm living here in New York City. And so we're catching up, and he's like, Danielle, have you been to the grocery store recently? He's like, do you know that, like, normally I go and I buy green onions, right? And he's like, green onions at Trader Joe's were 99 cents. A thing, like whatever of green onions. He's like, do you know that the green onions now are $1.39? And I had to tell him my olive oil story, right? So this guy, Ferguson, is just spitting bullshit that is like, everything is great, the economy is good. And I'm just like, I guess that would make sense if people, thank you, a bunch. I was like a bushel. They just say these things as if we can't literally go to the grocery store, look at our statements, our banking statements, and see the difference between the beginning of the year and where we are right now. Like, it's just like, it's wild to me. And so here you go. Inflation. This is what CNN said earlier today. Inflation could be, folks, a third lower without tariffs, financial decision makers say. So inflation that we are feeling, and I just want to remind you, do you remember who said that, Americans are going to have to feel a little bit of pain? That came from Elon Musk, the world's richest man, that was telling the rest of us to, tighten our belts. And these are the people who 77 million Americans said, yeah, let's go with that guy. Tariffs are fueling a significant chunk of price hikes across the economy, according to a survey of executives released yesterday. Chief financial officers estimate tariffs are to blame for about 1/3 of their company's price growth this year, according to the CFO survey issued by Duke University and the Federal Reserve Banks of Richmond and Atlanta. So inflation could have been about a third lower this year without Donald Trump's historically high tariffs, meaning taxes on the American people. And they go on to write, that's nothing to sneeze at. If the latest inflation reading of 2.9% were a third lower, it would be essentially right at 2%. The level the Federal Reserve targets for price increases that are neither too hot or too cold. So, who has fucked up everything? Donald Trump. Why has the Federal Reserve not wanted to touch interest rates? Because they did not want inflation to balloon. And we are going to find out tomorrow how their shift, how it has helped or hurt us, or if there has been no change whatsoever. But Donald Trump, much in the same way that Ben Ferguson is just sitting on CNN spouting lies that are easily debunked, he wants federal governors to be there who, like the Department of Justice, if he says investigate that person, they say, okay, boss, whatever you need, boss, I'm right on top of it, boss. He wants the Fed govs to do the same thing. If he says cut interest rates, if he says toy with the economy so that I look good, if he says to businesses now, oh, you don't need to do quarterly reports that indicate how well or bad the economy is doing, just do them twice a year so no one is the wiser. Donald Trump just wants a bunch of yes men who then gaslight us into not believing our lying eyes, right? So then, this is what has happened. So you know, right, that he has been trying to get rid of Lisa Cook, right? One of the federal governors, right, at the Reserve. And CNBC comes out and says something remarkable has happened, never before been done. And it is because, I don't know, everyone is really concerned about what will happen to our economy if Donald Trump is able to manipulate, right, the independent Federal Reserve the way that he is currently manipulating what is supposed to be an independent Department of Justice. Take a listen.
At a powerhouse new filing in the Supreme Court. This is an amicus brief just dropped within the past couple of moments, and it's signed by every living former Fed chair, also a number of former Treasury secretaries, both Democrats and Republicans, but notably no economic officials from the first Trump administration that I can see signing on to this document. It's in support of Lisa Cook, and it's arguing that the Supreme Court should leave Lisa Cook in her position at the Fed while the case is adjudicated. What they say here is that granting the government's request to remove Governor Cook from the board immediately would upset long-standing protections and the essential functions they serve. Doing so would expose the Federal Reserve to political influences, thereby eroding public confidence in the Fed's independence and jeopardizing the credibility and efficacy of U.S. monetary policy. Some of the big names signing on to this include former Fed Chair Janet Yellen, Larry Summers, Robert Rubin, looking at some of the others, Hank Paulson, former Treasury Secretary under President Bush, Jack Lew, former Treasury Secretary under President Obama, Alan Greenspan, Phil Gramm, Tim Geithner, and of course, Ben Bernanke, former Fed chair as well, along with a host of other Obama, Bush, and Clinton era officials here signing on to this amicus brief. So this is the weight of sort of U.S. economic thought here now coming down on the side of Cook in this debate. But as I say, notably, nobody from the first Trump administration that I can see at first glance here looking at this list of names.
Of course, nobody from the first Trump administration would be there because none of those people were qualified to have their jobs. So we're talking about credible people who understand and know the economy, right? Like that is what we're talking about. So, folks, the fact is that Donald Trump is manipulating every single aspect of our lives, our government, the world, and gaslighting everyone in the process into believing that we shouldn't be concerned, that all is well. So we should all just walk through our lives like mindless MAGA robots, like Ben Ferguson, like Megyn Kelly and others, and just say, no, everything is great. It's perfect. Don't worry about anything. And yet you have a letter that is signed by all of the heavyweights that have ever been Fed chair, all of the leading economists in the country across administrations outside of this kook one, who are raising alarm bells about the independence of the Federal Reserve, the stability of our economy. So we'll see what the MAGAfied Supreme Court is going to do, but I'm not a betting woman, but I bet you they don't operate in the best interests of the United States. I bet you that they make a decision that will make Donald Trump happy, because that's why they're in the positions that they're in. Speaking of which, breaking news today. Pete Hegseth, the most unqualified Secretary of Defense ever, has decided to alert the world that all of the top admirals and generals around the world will no longer be at their post next week, because he's summoning them to Virginia without saying why. It's not as if anything is happening, like, Israel attacking flotillas, Spain and Italy sending Navy ships into the Mediterranean to protect the flotillas. It's not as if just today there weren't Russian planes that were in the vicinity of the state of Alaska that then the United States had to scramble to send up our own jets to figure out what the fuck was going on. That happened today, by the way. Putin is, testing the fences to see who's on deck in Alaska. Not to mention, Israel bombing everybody and their mother. So of course, now would be the right time for this alleged alcoholic to announce to the world that all of our admirals and generals are going to be leaving their post for absolutely no reason. We have no idea. Pete Hegseth has summoned scores of generals and admirals from around the world to meet on short notice next week at a Marine Corps base in Virginia, but has not disclosed the reason for the gathering, 4 U.S. officials said on Thursday. The unusual directive, which has been filtering its way through military commands, and the undisclosed rationale, has stirred anxiety among the military's ranks at a time when Hegseth has fired several senior officers. The 4 U.S. officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss confidential meetings confirmed that the gathering was scheduled for next week, September 30th, at the base in Quantico. Why not just send, I don't know, a signal to all of our enemies that we're weak in the places where our generals and admirals would be. And if you were looking to do anything nefarious, they're all going to be at Quantico next week. Some days, folks, I'm not sure what is going to kill us. Like, if you're spinning the wheel of disaster, spinning the wheel of chaos, what do you think is going to hit first? Is it going to be RFK Jr.'s, lies about Tylenol and autism? Is it going to be his vaccine conspiracy theory and denial? Is it going to be that's going to kill us, right? Because like we're so unprepared for another global health pandemic that if something were to hit this week, America pretty much is just headed towards extinction. So is that what's going to get us? Is it going to be the alleged alcoholic Keg's breath, the Department of, the Secretary of Defense and his ineptitude that's going to get us into some type of war or just have us in a position of weakness? Like, is that what's going to get us? Is it going to be Donald Trump's tiny, sweaty, sticky hands tweeting us into World War III? Like, is that going to be what gets us? I'm just not sure, because there are so many options to choose from that spell America's demise at the hands of this administration. But there's something important for us, while all of this is happening, all of these fucking distractions, all of this ridiculousness. Don't forget about the one name that should always remain on the tips of all of our tongues: Epstein. So, Senator Ron Wyden, presses JPMorgan Chief Dimon for answers on Jeffrey Epstein. Senator Ron Wyden, Democrat of Oregon, sent a list of questions to Jamie Dimon, head of the country's biggest bank, about its financial relationships with Mr. Epstein, the convicted sex offender. Quote, the victims of Epstein's abuse and the American public deserve answers on the role the U.S. banks played in enabling Epstein's crimes. Mr. Wyden wrote in a letter on Wednesday, the latest push by Democrats and some Republicans to investigate the part major financial institutions played in enabling Mr. Epstein's decades-long sex trafficking operation. Earlier this month, 10 Democratic senators, led by Senator Elizabeth Warren, urged the Senate Banking Committee to hold hearings into JPMorgan's ties to Mr. Epstein, who remained a client at the bank for years after he pleaded guilty in 2008 to a charge of soliciting prostitution from a teenage girl. JPMorgan declined to comment. Just a reminder, this man, Jeffrey Epstein, was not just some low-level corner pimp. He was running a multi-billion-dollar sex trafficking operation that what Democratic senators are trying to get to the root of is to what extent JPMorgan Chase was aware of the fact that Jeffrey Epstein was up to no good, and why, if there were red flags, why no one was alerted until after his death. The pressure on JPMorgan comes after an investigation by the New York Times Magazine that examined the bank's relationship with Mr. Epstein during a time when he was regularly sexually abusing teenage girls and young women. Some senior executives repeatedly ignored staff members' concerns about Mr. Epstein opening accounts for young women and his repeated pattern of withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars in cash nearly every month, a potential indicator of sex trafficking, experts have said. Folks, I mean, I can't go to, I've said this before, and I'm just going to use this example again. I can't go to CVS and buy fucking Sudafed without being flagged by my bank that says, is it you, Danielle, that's buying this $23 package of Sudafed? And how many packages of Sudafed have you bought this month? Is it your allergies, or are you a drug runner? And I got to go through the same fucking no, yes, standing at the register waiting for my card to be cleared so that I can make my purchase. And you're telling me that the average American has to deal with that type of inconvenience on a regular basis because a few people several years ago got together and realized that they could buy a bunch of Sudafed and make, right, like whatever, fentanyl, whatever it was that they were doing, that the rest of us have to be flagged. But you're telling me that Jeffrey Epstein on a regular basis is opening up accounts for young women, is transferring and withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars, which is a sign of sex trafficking. And JPMorgan Chase was just like, do, 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 do. Nothing to see here, folks. It's exhausting. Meth. I couldn't remember. Was it meth? Is that what people were using Sudafed for? I can't get all those drugs. And, you know, is it fentanyl? Is it meth? I don't remember. Nonetheless, you can get flagged for buying 2 boxes of that. But if you buy 16 guns at one time, A-okay. Traffic hundreds of girls on a regular basis, A-okay. Isn't it amazing what policies our legislators can put together that actually have no effect and no protection on anyone and feel good about themselves, pat themselves on the back for it? But like things that could actually protect us, they're all hands off on because rich white men. Anyway, Barack Obama's been on a good conference tour. I don't know where he is, but clips of him speaking, it's kind of like holding on to a warm blanket on like a cold winter's night. Do you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes, even though he's not president anymore, and even though there are things that I wish that Obama would have done that he didn't do, I still need the comfort of intelligence that he offers. So this is him today when he said, we have people in power making broad. Well, I'll just let me find the clip because maybe you, like me, also like hearing from Obama, who make you feel good sometimes.
So we had the spectacle of my successor in the Oval Office making broad claims around certain drugs and autism that have been continuously disproved. And the degree to which that undermines public health, the degree to which that can do harm to women who are pregnant, the degree to which that creates anxiety for parents who do have children who are autistic, which, by the way, itself is subject to a spectrum, and a lot of what is being trumpeted as these massive increases actually have to do with a broadening of the criteria across that spectrum so that people can actually get services and help, not to, it's all of that is violence against the truth.
I loved when he said that. All of this that he is offering is violence against the truth. And that is exactly what this regime is waging. War and violence against the truth. Prosecuting those that tell the truth. Prosecuting those that dare to call out their lies and criminality. At the core of all of this, he hit the nail on the head. This regime is about violence against the truth. And then he said something else that I also thought was important. And he said, it's fair to say that 80% of the world's problems involve old men hanging on who are afraid of death and insignificance. and they won't let go. They build pyramids and they put their names on everything. They get very anxious about it. And he's not wrong. When you think about where we are right now, when you think about the leaders, not just in this country, but around the world, they are all old, and I will add, white men who are in their sunset years, who refuse to let go because their egos won't allow them to. And so they will destroy until they can't anymore. But I don't ever want us to believe that somehow all of this will just die out, right? That, we'll just get young people in there because young people are more progressive. Folks, I want to remind you of who marched in Charlottesville in 2017. It wasn't 80-year-old white men marching in Charlottesville. It was 20-something-year-old white men. This shit just doesn't die out. It's passed down like a family heirloom. And if you don't get to the core of how this nation is being red-pilled, then we're going to keep repeating these cycles over and over and over again. And finally, I leave you with this. Jimmy Kimmel's second night was just as good as his first night. He is not pulling any punches. He is not holding back. And for that, I appreciate him, because we have to continue telling the truth for as long as we can, as loud as we can, as far and wide as we can, before we can't. Because the minute that we stop, they win. So take a listen to his opening monologue as we close out here today.
One very special friend, moments after we taped our show last night, the Mad Red Hatter wrote, "I can't believe ABC Fake News gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back." You can't believe they gave me my job back. I can't believe we gave you your job back. We're even. And there's more. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. No, they weren't. Something happened between then and now, because his audience is gone and his talent was never there. We're right here, Jeffrey. That I can't argue with. Shut the up. The freedom of speech is only for me. Do not interrupt the president. Why would they want someone back who does so poorly, who's not funny, and who puts the network in jeopardy by playing 99% positive Democrat garbage? Who puts the network in jeopardy? You hear that? There's the threat again. This time straight from FCC Biscuit's mouth. He goes, he says, "I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative. A true bunch of losers." Only Donald Trump would try to prove he wasn't threatening ABC by threatening ABC. And you almost have to feel sorry for the people who work for him, who try to clean up the messes. They've been bending over backwards to say, he never threatened. J.D. Vance today made the claim that what the FCC chairman said was a joke, which, I don't know, maybe that was a joke? I don't know. They go to all these lengths to say, it wasn't coercion. The president was just musing. And then the second Trump is alone, he sits on the toilet, he gets his grubby little thumbs on his phone, and he immediately blows their excuses to smithereens and says, "It was ratings that got me fired." Has anyone ever been fired for bad ratings on a Wednesday? This was his big closer. Let Jimmy Kimmel rot in his bad ratings. And he does know bad ratings. He has some of the worst ratings any president has ever had.
I just love it. My biggest hope when it was announced that Jimmy Kimmel was coming back this week was that he would be a shell of himself. He would talk about everything else and talk around what was actually happening. And he didn't. He has decided to go right back directly into the eye of the hurricane and said, I dare you. I think it's brilliant. This is how you stand up to power. This is how you stand up to weak, small men. You keep going and you get louder. And that's the lesson, right? Is that Donald Trump isn't stopping. He's becoming more volatile. And he's literally tweeting out his plans because he can't help himself. And the thing is that as I've said, and as Waj has said on Democracy-ish, Donald Trump is weak. He isn't winning. It's why he continues to lash out. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't get more dangerous as he loses his grip on power. It means that he's going to hold on even tighter, which means that the rest of us have got to resist. The rest of us have got to find our place in this moment, find our voice, find our power, and fight back. Because he is just waiting for the rest of us to bend the knee, as his sycophantic followers do and his cabinet does, and worship at his tiny little feet. And I, for one, refuse. And so should you. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moody Show. I will be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern, for Democracy-ish live with my co-pilot, Wajahat Ali. So do make sure to join us 12 p.m. Eastern. As always, the Danielle Moody Show is back on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. And before I get out of here, I want to thank so much the super stickers, Susan, for your fantastic moderation as always and your generosity. Game Shark, thank you so much. Susan again. TM FJ, thank you. KE, thank you so much. MJ again, appreciate you all the way up in Canada. Susan again, Nicole, Robert, E. Schwartz, appreciate you all so very much. Y'all, it has been one hell of a goddamn week. So I really hope that you find joy this weekend, that you do something that is restorative, that is nourishing, that is hopeful, and that brings you joy. As always, dear friends, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, 12 p.m. Eastern. Be well.